and get started. So hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for a short conversation about the Coverdell Fellowship and Scholarship that's offered through the Middlebury Institute of National Studies. My name is Noah Broad. I am the Vice President of the Northern California Peace Corps Association and returned Peace Corps volunteer. I served in El Salvador between 2013 to 2015. I was also a student at MISS and while not a beneficiary of that particular, of the Coverdell Fellowship, I was participated in the Masters International program while I was there. So it was kind of the flip of that program. And what we're going to do today is just have a short conversation between Jillian Stouffer and Ophelia Hernandez and Anthony. Anthony, what's your last name again? I'm sorry. Abbott, yeah, who is joining us also from Peace Corps. Actually, he's come out from Washington D.C. and we managed to grab his time today a little bit to talk about that, to talk about the program. So maybe just to kick it off, what I'll do is I'll hand it over to you, Jill, to just do a short kind of presentation and kind of ground us and give us a little bit of context about how that program is being implemented at MISS.
Sure, yeah, and would you mind sharing the slides?
Yeah, I'll bring that up right now.
Hi everyone, I'm Jill Stoffers. I work at the Middlebury Institute. I'm also a MISS alum, but sadly not a Peace Corps volunteer yet. I'm a wannabe, so you can work on getting me to join at some point in the future. I do work with our admissions team, and I work specifically with our partnerships, and one of the really important ones to the Institute is the Coverdell Scholarship. And so the Coverdell Scholarship is available to students who, can you advance the slide, Noah?
Yes.
Thanks. So this has a little bit of information about our scholarship, but basically we love return Peace Corps volunteers at the Middlebury Institute. Our faculty tell us that people who've done Peace Corps have comfort with a high degree of ambiguity. They have cross-cultural and intercultural skills that are superior to most other people. They have high levels of language skills for the most part. And they've done some kind of practical work. So we've just been chatting among us about the different jobs that people did in Peace Corps. So maybe you've taught, or you've trained, or you've done development projects or women in maternal health. So they're just, the people also have, in addition to sort of broad skills, they have functional skills. And the reason that faculty love having people with a Peace Corps background in class is that you bring that practical applied approach with you to class. And so if you're in a class and you're working on a program design or on a budgeting project or on a cross-cultural training development, you actually have lots of places and experiences you can draw from that make the discussions in class more rich. They add to the learning of everybody else. And importantly, they add to your own learning because you can understand like, oh, this is how we did it. And maybe here's a different way, or here's how I could do something differently, going on to another project. And so the Institute guarantees $18,000 scholarships per year to people who have completed Peace Corps Response, or Global Health volunteers. And that's if you're selected into our Coverdell Fellows Program. The program that we do have at the Institute is competitive. Of course, we'd love to be able to accept all the Peace Corps Fellows, all the RPCVs who apply to us, but because there's a pretty significant scholarship component to it, we are selective in that process. And so what that means for you in the application process is it's to your benefit to apply for an earlier deadline in our cycle than for a later one, just to make sure that we still have those slots available. And Noah, could you advance the slide again? It looks like we went back to the first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then
there we go. Perfect.
Maybe I can add a little
please.
bit to that. In the previous slide for eligibility, for return Peace Corps volunteers, return Peace Corps volunteers must have successfully completed their full 27 months of service, or have been medically separated to still qualify for the Coverdell Fellowships. And for Peace Corps Response volunteers should complete at least 12 months of service within a 24-month period to be eligible.
Thank you for that. That's important information. We have several master's programs that are eligible for the Peace Corps Fellows Program. So the program that Ophelia, one of our students, is in, the International Education Management Program, We have programs in international development, international environmental policy, and international trade. We have programs in nonproliferation and terrorism studies, in translation, interpretation, conference interpretation, localization management, and language teaching. So you can see that a lot of those areas cover some of the functions that you might have served in Peace Corps. Okay, and you can advance the slide again. And so how to apply, if you want to be considered for a Coverdell Fellow at the Middlebury Institute, you simply submit your application for admission by one of the application deadlines. And on that application, we're going to ask you to identify any affiliations you have. So if you've been a City Year volunteer as well, you can check that, but you definitely want to include your Peace Corps affiliation when prompted on the application. You also should include your Peace Corps service on your resume. And then we may or may not ask you for your COS or your DOS documents. Often Peace Corps applicants include that as part of their application. They just upload it, or one of their letters of recommendation is from one of their Peace Corps supervisors. And so that's a way for us to verify eligibility for the program. And then the next thing that you can do is prepare for your admissions interview. As a professional school, an interview is part of the process. And we want you to approach it like you would a job interview. So, dress professionally, come with great questions, and just be prepared to show us what you're going to contribute to the community here at the Institute. And then if you're also going to be applying for additional financial aid, right around the time you submit your application for admission is a good time to submit that financial aid application. Also because one of the ways, so if you're selected as a Peace Corps Fellow, and Ophelia is going to talk about this, you have some service hours that you have to do in the local community. So bringing that Peace Corps third goal back and bringing Peace Corps values back to the local community, that there are ways that you can earn money that can help support those hours toward your third goal. And so one way that students can do this is apply for federal financial aid, and then they can receive work study. And there is an opportunity to work off campus. So you can work on campus, which is something Ophelia is doing, or you could work off campus, which is something that Noah did when he was a student here. And working off campus may put you in organizations like America Reads. So we're working with kids who are learning to read in English, or working with some of the local organizations that work with migrants in our community. So there may be opportunities to apply that work study money to an off-campus employer, which lets you build your resume, lets you get those Peace Corps hours, and really lets you contribute back to the community that you're living in at this point. And I think there's one more slide about how to learn a little bit more. And then if you're interested in learning more, certainly we encourage you to visit our website. The scholarship information is there at that go.miss.edu/Peace Corps link. And then you're completely welcome to connect with me or to Ophelia. And Ophelia is the current student here. So she's a really great one to chat with about, what's it like going from Peace Corps back to school? What's the campus community like? What's it like to live in Monterey? But we're both happy to answer questions. Thanks, Noah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And so I had a couple questions I wanted to ask you actually about the program and how it's implemented at MISS.
Mm-hmm.
1 second. Let's just share and bring it back. And but I guess before jumping into those, I kind of wanted to give the floor a little bit to Anthony to talk about how that scholarship and fellowship looks like from Peace Corps side and how that's implemented nationally.
Perfect. So, hello everyone, my name is Anthony Abbott. I'm a program specialist with the Office of University Programs at Peace Corps. I should add that the statements that I'll make today are not the official views of the US government, and I will be just speaking about the publicly available information on our website. So all of the information that I'll be talking about can also be found on the Coverdell Fellows website within the Peace Corps website. So the Coverdell Fellowship is a program that has existed since approximately 1985, starting at the Teachers College at Columbia University. And we have programs at over 140 universities and about 220 departments around the country. All of the universities and programs are available on our easily searchable website on the Peace Corps, on the Peace Corps website. So you can, on that website, you can search by state, by the amount of financial assistance available, offered by the school, subject area, non-traditional degree options such as online and PhD programs. And also you can search for minority serving institutions that offer Coverdell Fellowships. And then you can also filter just schools that offer application fee waivers as well. And Coverdell Fellowships do require that the universities provide at least 25% minimum of financial assistance, but many universities, as you'll see on the website, give far more than the minimum 25%. And as I already mentioned, all successfully completed Peace Corps volunteers serving their full 27 months are eligible. They receive lifetime eligibility for the Coverdell Fellowship. And as of late 2017, early 2018, if you are eligible for the Coverdell Fellowship, that will be included on the last page of your DOS document. So it will be very easy for both you and the university to verify your eligibility for the Coverdell Fellowship. If you have questions, we can work with you if you contact us at Peace Corps. But, if you ET before the end of your 27-month service, or if you extend for a third, fourth, or fifth year and ET during those years, you are not eligible for the Coverdell Fellowship. The full eligibility information is available on the website as well, explicitly listing all of the different circumstances of eligibility.
Okay, but interrupted service does not affect eligibility, or does?
Depending on the circumstances around interrupted service. But typically, if it is something out of control of the volunteer, typically they have eligibility.
Okay, that's good to hear. Also great to hear that you're including those benefits on the DOS document that volunteers are starting to get, because I imagine that makes it a lot easier and clearer for folks to implement the program.
It makes it easier for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And thank you. So one of the questions I had was, whether whether people continued to be eligible for the scholarship or the fellowship long after they had served, because that is a question that we've gotten. And so, yeah, thank you also for clarifying that it's not a benefit that expires after you finished up your service. A question I do have a little bit about that is if an individual went for a second master's degree and wanted to use the benefit at another institution a second time, are there limitations on how many times you could use the fellowship?
I think that would be up to the discretion of the university itself.
Okay, got it.
We would look at somebody again if they had been a Peace Corps volunteer and qualified for the fellowship. We would consider them like we would any other fellow.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give some time a little bit here to Ophelia also to talk a little bit and share her experience as someone who actually has applied and gone through the entire process. And maybe if you could introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your experience at Miss Ophelia.
Hi everyone, my name is Ophelia. I was actually a Peace Corps volunteer in 2016 to 2018 in Ukraine. I was a TEFL teacher. I am now in the International Education Management Program. And what else?
If you could talk a little bit about your experience coming back from Peace Corps and applying for the fellowship through Miss and what that looked like, and maybe even what you're doing now through the that volunteering portion that goes along with the fellowship.
Okay. So I actually finished my Peace Corps service this past November. So it hasn't been that long because I started school right in the spring. So I only had about less than a month to actually transition, coming back to the US and then starting school in the spring. And so, but it was actually all right because we do have a RPCV community at Miss. So even coming back and trying to transition, for many people, when you want to talk about your Peace Corps service, or when they want to talk about, or when they want to know about it, they really don't get it. But when you have that RPCV community in school, even though they didn't serve in the same community that you did or the same country, they get it. They understand. So I felt that that was really nice. I felt very welcomed in that aspect as well. In terms of the community, so how it works with, depending on how many semesters you are on campus, every semester is around 75 hours of community service that you have to complete. For me, I'm here for 2 semesters on campus, so I only have to complete around 150 hours. If you're here for 3 semesters, it's around 225. If you're here for 4 or more, it's around 300. And as Jill mentioned, there are many opportunities to actually complete those hours, whether you're working on campus, like myself, or even you even have the opportunity to do a few of the classes. Currently, I'm auditing one of my Spanish courses, and part of it, we actually go every Friday to Salinas to help ESL students, mostly of Hispanic, a Hispanic community, and teach them English, and then so that also counts as part of our community hours. There are also other opportunities. We also have an RPCB Peace Corps Club on campus, and we try to do as many events. And if you participate in those events in the planning process, that also counts as your community hours. So there are many opportunities, whether it's on campus and off campus as well.
And what was, when you're coming into MIS, what did that application process look like, for getting selected for the Coverdell Fellowship?
So in the application process, like Jill mentioned earlier, I did put that I was affiliated with Peace Corps. In my case, I was still a Peace Corps volunteer when I applied. So I had my regional manager actually do a letter of recommendation, as well as I also had to provide the description of service. So that was how they decided if I was able to be eligible for the Coverdell Fellowship as well.
Okay. So you applied before you had actually finished before you'd COS?
Yes.
Okay. And which was, that was one of the questions that I was that I had for Jill as well. Like, if a person is currently serving, is that a requirement that maybe they get a letter from or an early DOS letter from their Peace Corps service? What's the institution's view on that for volunteers that haven't finished up their service yet?
That's a good question. I'd have to clarify with our admissions team who actually does the awarding, but it's really common that people are still serving in Peace Corps when they apply. In fact, I did an admissions interview and someone had to climb to the roof of the building to get a cell service. He was in Morocco and I could hear cars going by and goats. It was, for me, it was completely wonderful. So it's really, really common that we have people applying while they're still abroad. So we figure out how to do the interview via time zones or whatever technology is possible. Typically, the students who are currently serving get a letter from someone they're working, some Peace Corps manager, and that helps. But I'll have to find out if they have to provide an early DOS.
I actually asked about that.
Typically at most schools, a letter from the country directors saying that they believe that the Peace Corps volunteer will complete their service, and in good faith, the school will tentatively accept them upon agreement that they will receive the signed completed DOS, because they can't actually receive a DOS until they officially COS. And then at that point, they would submit it to the school and officially become a Peace Corps.
I guess that's how we do it. That's how we do it with students who are still in undergrad who apply to grad school. They don't have their degree confirmed yet, so we admit them with the assumption they're going to earn that degree, and then we follow up to make sure that we get proof of degree completion. So I imagine it's the same process.
From what I do remember from my application process is I did let Sadia know, who's the director in the admissions office, that I wasn't going to be completing my service until a certain amount of time. And she just let me know, once you get that DOS, just make sure to just send it to the office. And then that was it.
Great.
Okay. Oh, that's great. And so this is a question for you, Jill, for that scholarship that students receive through the fellowship. Is that able to be combined with other forms of financial aid that Middlebury has, whether it be merit-based aid or other programs?
Yes, it is. So the 18,000 annual is actually our single largest scholarship. So it's unlikely that a student would receive additional merit aid just because it's a large chunk. But there is other need-based aid that's not loan-based. So we have a need-based grant, the work study programs both on and off campus. So it definitely can be combined with that. And then of course it can be combined with loan-based aid with federal financial aid as well.
Okay, that's awesome. So the benefit from, say like a work study grant, that isn't subtracted or that's not part of the $18,000.
No, it's on top of.
Cool. And does it matter which program at MIS that you're applying to, or is it across all of the programs?
It's across many of the programs, and it's listed on our go.mis.edu /Peace Corps site. It's listed across it's available across many of the programs. Yeah.
Cool.
And all of those programs are also listed on the Peace Corps website.
Yes.
So if you were just searching for schools in
Yep.
California, those would all show up.
Right.
As well.
Yep. Thank you for that reminder.
Cool. And then I guess sort of one other question that I had about the program and how it's sort of implemented at MIS is, so you said that there's only a few slots, probably fewer slots than our actual applicants. And so the process of selecting fellows, what does that look like from MIS's perspective? What does the selection and judging of applications look like?
So it's going to be comparable to how we look at our regular admissions pool. So, as a professional school, we value people with professional work experience or, significant internship experience. So that's going to be a factor. We're definitely going to look at the academic performance of the students. So looking at their transcripts, both the coursework and the grades. And we take into account all kinds of majors. If someone was a biochem major for the first semester and then decided to transfer into history, we can look for a trajectory in a transfer, but it's going to be looking at the student holistically like we would in our normal admission process. So academic, merit, professional experience, language ability, and then how, it will give a student a chance to talk more about that in that admissions interview.
Okay, awesome. And so for me, that's sort of all the questions that I had about the program itself. I want to thank you for taking the time to share with our community a little bit about the fellowship, how you're implementing at MIS. Anthony, how Peace Corps maintains and supports that program nationally. Ophelia, how it was for you to actually come in to MIS and the community there, and what it was like to be a recipient. Is there anything else that any of you would like to add?
For me, it was a little bit different. I do want to talk about how different it was coming as a TEFL teacher and trying to revolve a complete 360 and into the student side. So even though it was there for 2 years teaching and then now I'm the student, I feel like that was a little bit different, the transition. But I did have support from my cohort in my program. So that also really helped.
You mean at MIS, like the cohort that you entered in with?
Yes, specifically in my program, in the International Education Management program. But among my cohort, I also had another RPCV there. So that was
okay.
Also we were in it together.
Yeah, that was my experience when I came back. Also, I kind of had that wide-eyed look, sort of a little bit disoriented coming back from Peace Corps, and finishing out my last semester on campus was it was a good community to come back to because there are a lot of Peace Corps volunteers in that area, and
definitely. I think another big plus also, coming straight away from Peace Corps, is the food is very limited over there, and then coming into a place where it's very diverse, I was very happy of the cuisine offered around the area. So
You get all the favorites, get all the cheese, get
Mexican food.
all the Mexican food. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I have really fond memories of Monterey and the aquarium and the beaches and yeah, it's just a beautiful place to live and to study.
Yeah, if you have to go to grad school, you might as well do it somewhere beautiful, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for taking your time this afternoon. And if we get additional questions from folks that are watching after I've sent it out through the network, I'll make sure to forward it along to you and yeah, connect you with any of the interested viewers.
Thanks to you, Noah, for setting this up and for being a great RPCV alumni volunteer and keeping the network going and continuing, to further the goals of Peace Corps after your
Yeah.
service. Thanks for that.